The morning sun cast long shadows across the massive radio dishes of the Terran Deep Space Communications Array. Dr. Amanda Clark walked quickly through the corridors of the facility, her coffee still steaming in the early desert air. She had been working at the array for 12 years, listening to the empty void of space, hoping to catch the first whisper of alien intelligence. Today would be different, though she didn't know it yet. Amanda settled into her workstation and began her usual routine of scanning the incoming signals. Most were just cosmic background noise, the random chatter of distant stars and dying galaxies. But at exactly 9:47 a.m., something new appeared on her screen. The signal was structured, organized, and definitely artificial. Her hands shook as she ran the preliminary analysis. The transmission was coming from outside the solar system, from a point approximately 4 light-years away. It used mathematical principles that were universal, but the encoding was unlike anything in Earth's databases. This was it. This was first contact. Amanda immediately called Commander Jake Morrison at the United Earth Defense Force. Jake was a practical man who had spent 20 years in the military, rising through the ranks by staying calm under pressure. When Amanda told him about the signal, he listened without interruption, then said he would be there within the hour. Jake arrived with a small team of linguists and military analysts. They gathered around Amanda's workstation as she played the decoded transmission. The signal had been converted into visual patterns, mathematical sequences, and what appeared to be language structures. The team worked for 6 hours straight, slowly piecing together the alien message. By late afternoon, they had enough of the translation to understand the basic meaning. Jake read the preliminary report aloud to the assembled team, his voice growing darker with each sentence. The message was from something called the Zephyrian Collective. They claimed to be the rulers of a vast interstellar empire that controlled dozens of star systems. They had been watching Earth for several decades, studying human civilization from a distance. Their verdict was not encouraging. The aliens called humans Deathworlders, a term that seemed to carry deep contempt. They explained that Earth was an unusually hostile planet, full of natural disasters, dangerous weather, and violent predators. Most intelligent life in the galaxy, they claimed, evolved on peaceful worlds with stable climates and gentle ecosystems. Humans were an anomaly, a species that had somehow developed intelligence despite living on a world that should have killed them. The Zephyrians viewed this as making humans naturally violent and unpredictable. They believed that allowing humans to develop advanced technology and space travel would be dangerous for the rest of the galaxy. Therefore, they had decided to intervene before humanity could spread beyond Earth. The demands were simple and non-negotiable. Humanity had exactly 30 standard galactic days to comply with the following terms. All military technology must be surrendered to Zephyrian forces. Earth's governments must dissolve and accept direct Zephyrian rule. 10 million humans must be selected to serve as a labor force for mining operations in distant star systems. The remaining human population would be relocated to designated areas on Earth, where they would live under strict supervision. The transmission included detailed specifications for the surrender process. Humans were to disable all weapon systems, ground their aircraft, and gather in major cities to await processing. The Zephyrians would arrive in exactly 30 days to begin the occupation. Resistance, they warned, would result in the complete destruction of Earth's major population centers from orbit. What made the message particularly insulting was its tone. The aliens spoke to humanity the way a parent might speak to a misbehaving child. They repeatedly referred to humans as primitive and barely evolved. They seemed to believe they were doing humanity a favor by offering slavery instead of extinction. The transmission ended with a final insult that made Jake's jaw clench. The lead Zephyrian, who identified himself as High Arbiter Velther, expressed pity for humanity's situation. He suggested that humans should be grateful for Zephyrian mercy, since most civilized species would have simply destroyed Earth rather than dealing with such dangerous creatures. Amanda stared at the decoded message on her screen, feeling a mixture of fear and rage. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen. Humanity had dreamed of meeting alien civilizations for centuries, imagining peaceful exchanges of knowledge and culture. Instead, they had received an ultimatum from cosmic bullies who viewed them as dangerous animals to be caged. Jake was already on his secure phone, calling General Patricia Hayes at Earth Command. He spoke in clipped military phrases, summarizing the situation and requesting immediate authorization for emergency protocols. Within minutes, alarms were sounding at defense facilities around the world. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Amanda found herself at the center of a growing crisis as more military personnel arrived at the communications array. Linguists worked frantically to verify the translation, while intelligence analysts tried to determine if the transmission was authentic or some kind of elaborate hoax. By evening, there was no doubt. The signal had come from deep space using technology that was clearly beyond human capability. The mathematical proofs included in the message demonstrated scientific knowledge that Earth's best scientists could barely understand. This was real, and humanity had less than 30 days to decide how to respond. General Hayes arrived at the facility just before midnight, accompanied by a team of advisors and security personnel. She was a woman in her 50s who had spent her entire career preparing for threats to Earth's security. As she reviewed the alien message, her expression remained calm and professional, but Amanda could see the tension in her shoulders. The general convened an emergency meeting with the facility's senior staff. She explained that the World Defense Council had been notified and that President Alex Turner had called an emergency session of the Global Security Committee. The message was being verified by every major government on Earth, and preliminary response strategies were already being developed. Jake briefed the general on the technical aspects of the transmission, explaining how the aliens had managed to send a message across interstellar distances. The technology involved was far beyond anything humans possessed, which made the implied threat of orbital bombardment very real. Amanda was asked to provide her analysis of the alien psychology based on the language patterns in the message. She explained that the Zephyrians seemed to view themselves as a superior species with a natural right to rule over others. They showed no understanding of human concepts like freedom or self-determination. To them, humans were simply another resource to be managed. As the meeting continued into the early hours of the morning, one thing became clear: humanity would not surrender without a fight. The general authorized the activation of Project Titan, a secret military program that had been developing advanced weapon systems for potential alien threats. Few people knew about the project, but those who did understood that it represented humanity's best hope for survival. The meeting ended with assignments for each department. Amanda would continue working on the translation, looking for any additional information about Zephyrian capabilities or intentions. Jake would coordinate with military units around the world, preparing for the possibility of invasion. The general would brief world leaders on the situation and coordinate the global response. As dawn broke over the desert, Amanda stood outside the communications array, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were probably already heading toward Earth, confident in their superiority and expecting easy conquest. They had made one crucial mistake, though. They had given humanity 30 days to prepare, and they had no idea what humans were capable of when their survival was at stake. The age of human innocence was over. The galaxy had just learned that Earth was inhabited, and humanity was about to learn what it meant to be citizens of a larger, more dangerous universe. The Zephyrians expected to find frightened primitives ready to surrender. Instead, they were about to encounter a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They were about to meet the Deathworlders of Earth. Captain Lisa Rodriguez gripped the controls of the UES Vengeance as the stealth ship slipped through the darkness between stars. It had been 18 days since the alien ultimatum, and humanity was running out of time. Her mission was simple, but dangerous: get close enough to the incoming Zephyrian fleet to learn their weaknesses without being detected. The Vengeance was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, built in secret over the past decade as part of Project Titan. Its hull was covered in materials that absorbed radar and heat signatures, making it nearly invisible to most detection systems. Lisa had volunteered for this mission because she was one of the few pilots experienced enough to handle the ship's experimental systems. Her crew consisted of 4 specialists: Marcus Webb, the ship's engineer; Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist; Lieutenant Danny Foster, weapons specialist; and Corporal Beth Turner, communications expert. They had been traveling for 3 days. Following the energy signatures that Earth's deep space sensors had detected, Lisa checked her instruments for the 100th time. According to their calculations, the Zephyrian fleet should be somewhere in this region of space. The aliens were taking their time, probably confident that humans would surrender without a fight. They had no idea that Earth's military had been preparing for this possibility for years. Marcus called out from the engineering station. "Captain, I'm picking up something big on the gravity sensors. Multiple large masses moving in formation about 2 million kilometers ahead." Lisa felt her heart rate increase. "How many ships are we talking about?" "At least 50, maybe more. Some of them are huge, probably the size of small cities." Dr. Kim looked up from her scientific instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns. The aliens seem to be using some kind of collective communication system. All their ships are linked together in a network." Lisa made the decision to move closer. The Vengeance crept forward, its engines running at minimum power to avoid detection. As they approached the alien fleet, the main screen showed the first clear images of Zephyrian spacecraft. The ships were beautiful in their own way, with smooth curves and glowing energy fields. But they were also clearly designed for intimidation, rather than combat. The largest vessels were massive but seemed to lack heavy armor or defensive systems. They looked more like parade ships than warships. Lieutenant Foster studied the tactical display. "Captain, these ships are impressive, but their weapon systems are strange. They seem designed for bombardment rather than ship-to-ship combat. I don't think they've ever had to fight against an enemy that could shoot back." Lisa ordered the ship to maintain distance while they gathered more information. Over the next several hours, they observed the alien fleet's behavior and analyzed their technology. What they discovered was surprising. The Zephyrians moved their ships in perfect formation, like a parade or ceremony. Every vessel maintained exact spacing and speed. Their communications were constant, with data flowing between ships in an endless stream. It was clear that they operated as a collective mind rather than individual units. Dr. Kim made an important discovery while analyzing the alien biosignatures. "Captain, I don't think these aliens have ever experienced real combat. Their stress levels are minimal, and their behavior patterns suggest they're used to easy victories. They're not soldiers, they're more like administrators." This information was crucial. Lisa realized that the Zephyrians had probably conquered other worlds through fear and overwhelming numbers rather than actual fighting ability. They had never faced a species that was willing and able to fight back, Marcus discovered. Something even more interesting about their technology. "Captain, their ships are incredibly advanced, but they have a major weakness. All their systems are networked together, and they seem to rely on constant communication to function properly. If we could disrupt that network..." Lisa understood immediately. The aliens' greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Their collective consciousness allowed them to coordinate perfectly, but it also made them vulnerable to the right kind of attack. The Vengeance spent 2 more days observing the alien fleet before heading back to Earth. Lisa had gathered enough information to give humanity a real chance at victory. The trip home took another 3 days, during which the crew analyzed their data and prepared detailed reports. When they arrived at Earth, Lisa was immediately taken to a secure briefing room where General Hayes and the senior military staff were waiting. Also present was Dr. Kevin Walsh, the head of Terran Weapons Development, and Admiral Charles Bennett, who would be commanding Earth's defense forces. Lisa presented her findings to the assembled group. "The Zephyrians have superior technology, but they're not warriors. They've probably never fought against an enemy that could threaten them. Their ships are designed for intimidation and bombardment, not actual combat. Dr. Walsh leaned forward. With interest. What about their defenses? Their shields are powerful, but seem designed to stop energy weapons and missiles. I don't think they've ever had to deal with the kind of weapons we've been developing. Admiral Bennett asked about their numbers. How many ships are we facing? At least 60 major vessels plus hundreds of smaller support ships. But here's the important part. They all operate through a collective network. If we can disrupt that network, they'll lose their coordination advantage. General Hayes nodded thoughtfully. Dr. Walsh, what do we have that might work against these aliens? Dr. Walsh stood up and activated a holographic display. We've been developing weapons specifically for space combat, assuming we might face technologically superior enemies. Our plasma cannons can cut through most known materials. Our quantum torpedoes can phase through energy shields. And most importantly, we have the neural disruption array. The display showed a complex weapon system that had been built in secret on the moon. This device can generate electromagnetic pulses that interfere with networked consciousness systems. We designed it based on theoretical models of how alien collective minds might work. Lisa felt excitement growing. If that weapon works, it could turn their greatest advantage into a liability. Maya Foster, the chief engineer who had helped design the weapon, spoke up. There's something else. While analyzing the alien ship, fragments that Lisa brought back, I discovered that their technology is vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. They've never had to deal with the kind of solar storms and magnetic field fluctuations that we experience on Earth. This was even better news. Humans had been forced to develop technology that could function in Earth's chaotic electromagnetic environment. The aliens, coming from a more stable star system, had never needed such defenses. Admiral Bennett addressed the group. How long do we have to prepare? 7 days until their deadline, General Hayes replied. But I suspect they'll arrive sooner than that. They probably want to position their fleet for maximum intimidation. Dr. Walsh outlined the defensive preparations. We've been secretly installing weapon systems throughout the solar system for the past 5 years. Jupiter's moons have been converted into fortress stations. The asteroid belt has been seeded with automated defense platforms. And we've built a fleet of stealth fighters that can operate in environments that would destroy conventional spacecraft. Lisa was amazed by the scope of the preparations. How long have you been planning for this? Since we first detected radio signals from space 50 years ago, General Hayes explained. We knew that if aliens existed, they might not be friendly. Project Titan was designed to give humanity a fighting chance against superior technology. The meeting continued for several more hours as the group refined their battle plans. The strategy was simple: let the aliens get close enough to Earth to deploy their forces, then hit them with everything humanity had developed. The key was to strike fast and hard, disrupting their command structure before they could adapt. As the meeting ended, Admiral Bennett prepared to address the Zephyrian fleet. Instead of surrender, he would deliver humanity's response to their ultimatum. The aliens expected to find frightened primitives ready to submit. Instead, they were about to discover that Earth's inhabitants were far more dangerous than they had imagined. The countdown to humanity's first interstellar war had begun. High Arbiter Velther stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue and white planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, with its swirling clouds and bright oceans. He found it hard to believe that such a beautiful world had produced such violent creatures. The human response to his ultimatum had been amusing. Instead of surrender, they had sent a message filled with defiant words and empty threats. Admiral Charles Bennett had actually demanded that the Zephyrian fleet withdraw from Earth's solar system. The arrogance of these primitives was almost entertaining. Begin the bombardment, Velther ordered his weapons commander. Target their major cities first. Once they see our power, the survivors will be more cooperative. The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation, the 60 massive ships spreading out in a perfect pattern around Earth. Each vessel powered up its orbital bombardment weapons, preparing to rain destruction on the planet below. This would be quick and easy, just like every other conquest in their empire's history, but as the ships moved closer to Earth, something unexpected happened. The planet's gravity began to behave strangely. Instead of the normal, predictable pull, gravitational fields started fluctuating wildly. Several smaller Zephyrian ships were caught in artificial gravity wells that appeared without warning. What is happening? Velther demanded as his navigation officer struggled with the controls. Unknown, High Arbiter. The gravitational fields around this planet are unstable. Our ships are being pulled off course. Maya Foster watched from the hidden control center on Luna as her gravitational manipulators came online. For the past 5 years, human engineers had been disguising these devices as deep space mining equipment, placing them throughout Earth's orbit. Now they were creating artificial gravity fields that trapped the alien ships in unstable patterns. "Gravity traps are working," she reported to Admiral Bennett. "The alien fleet is scattered and confused. They can't maintain formation." "Excellent," Bennett replied from his command center. Colonel Davis launched the first wave. "Colonel Ryan." Davis sat in the cockpit of his fighter, watching the alien fleet struggle with the gravity traps. His squadron of 12 pilots had been training for this moment for 3 years. Their ships were equipped with experimental quantum drives that could phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to track. "Phantom Squadron, this is Phantom Leader," Davis spoke into his radio. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy their big ships. We're here to confuse them and test their defenses, hit and run, just like we practiced." The human fighters phased into normal space right in the middle of the Zephyrian fleet. The alien ships were so large that the tiny human craft were like gnats attacking elephants. But gnats could be very annoying when they knew where to bite. Davis targeted the sensor arrays on the nearest Zephyrian ship. His plasma cannon fired a bright blue beam that cut through the alien hull like a hot knife through butter. The ship's sensors went dark, leaving it blind and confused. Around him, the other human pilots were having similar success. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that could appear and disappear without warning. Their weapons were designed for long-range bombardment, not close-quarters combat with fast-moving targets. "Phantom Leader, this is Phantom 7, came the voice of Captain Nicole Brooks. "My ship is damaged, but I've got a clean shot at that. Big ship's main weapon. I'm going to ram it." Davis felt his heart sink. Nicole was one of his best pilots, but her ship had taken a hit from an alien energy beam. Her quantum drive was failing, and she couldn't phase out of normal space to escape. "Negative, Phantom 7. Try to make it back to base." "Sorry, Colonel, but I've got a better idea." Nicole pushed her fighter to maximum speed, heading straight for the weapon array of a Zephyrian dreadnought. The alien ship was enormous, easily a kilometer long, but its main gun was located on an exposed platform. If she could destroy it, the ship would lose most of its bombardment capability. At the last second, Nicole ejected from her fighter, her emergency pod automatically phasing out of normal space. Her unmanned ship slammed into the alien weapon array at nearly the speed of light, creating a massive explosion that crippled the dreadnought. The Zephyrians were beginning to panic. Their perfect formation was broken, their sensors were being destroyed, and tiny enemy ships were appearing and disappearing all around them. Velther had never experienced anything like this in his centuries of conquest. "Activate the collective battle network," he ordered desperately. "All ships, link your combat systems together. We need to coordinate our response." This was exactly what Dr. Kevin Walsh had been waiting for. From his control center on Luna, he activated the Neural Disruption Array. The massive weapon had been built into the moon's surface, disguised as a research facility. Now it sent powerful electromagnetic pulses directly at the Zephyrian fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. The aliens' collective consciousness network, which had been their greatest strength, suddenly became their greatest weakness. The disruption array sent feedback cascading through their linked minds, causing confusion and panic among the crew of every ship. For the first time in their species' history, individual Zephyrians had to think and act independently. They had been so dependent on their collective network that many of them didn't know how to function alone. Ship commanders who had always received orders from the collective mind now had to make their own decisions. Lieutenant Commander Sam Griffin saw his opportunity. While the alien fleet was in chaos, he led a boarding party toward the Zephyrian command ship. His team consisted of 12 Marine specialists who had been training for zero-gravity combat in hostile environments. The human boarding craft was tiny compared to the alien flagship, but it was designed for stealth and speed. Griffin's team used magnetic grapples to attach their ship to the Zephyrian hull, then cut through the alien metal with plasma torches. Inside the alien ship, the humans found themselves in an environment that would have killed most galactic species. The air was thin, the gravity was wrong, and the temperature was uncomfortable. But humans had evolved on a world where survival meant adapting to harsh conditions. Griffin's team moved through the alien ship like ghosts. They used maintenance shafts and ventilation systems to avoid the main corridors, appearing in unexpected places to strike at critical systems. The Zephyrians, already confused by the neural disruption, couldn't understand how the humans were moving through their ship so easily. "This is impossible," one Zephyrian officer said to another. "How are they surviving in these conditions? Their life support systems should have failed by now." What the aliens didn't understand was that human technology had been designed to work in Earth's chaotic environment. Solar storms, magnetic field fluctuations, and extreme weather had forced humans to build systems that could function under almost any conditions. Griffin reached the ship's main computer core and planted a virus that had been specifically designed to disrupt Zephyrian systems. The virus spread through the ship's network, causing more confusion and system failures. On the bridge, Velther watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. Ships were losing power, weapons were failing, and his crew was in complete panic. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were winning. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships withdraw to safe distance." But it was too late. The human fighters continued their hit-and-run attacks. The gravity traps held many ships in place, and the neural disruption array kept the Zephyrian crews confused and disorganized. What was supposed to be a simple bombardment had turned into a complete disaster. Admiral Bennett watched the battle from his command center, feeling a mixture of pride and amazement. Humanity had not only survived the first alien attack in their history, but they had turned it into a victory. The Zephyrians were retreating, their fleet broken and scattered, but Bennett knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would regroup, and probably return with even more ships. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's inhabitants were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Captain Elena Martinez stood on the bridge of the captured Zephyrian flagship, still amazed that she was actually commanding an alien starship. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Earth, and the humans had managed to capture or disable most of the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens who had come to conquer Earth were now prisoners, and their advanced technology was being studied by human scientists. Elena had been chosen to command the flagship because of her experience with alien technology. She had spent the past week learning how to operate Zephyrian systems, helped by the ship's computer, which could translate alien languages. What she discovered in the ship's databases changed everything about humanity's understanding of the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire was vast beyond imagination. They controlled over 200 different star systems, each home to intelligent species that had been conquered and enslaved. The aliens had been building their empire for thousands of years, always using the same method: arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and crush anyone who resisted. But as Elena read through the historical records, she realized something important. None of the conquered species had ever really fought back. They had all surrendered quickly when faced with Zephyrian technology. The aliens had become so used to easy victories that they had never developed real combat experience. Dr. Amanda Clark joined Elena on the bridge, carrying a translation device that she had been working on. Amanda had been studying Zephyrian prisoner interviews, trying to understand their psychology and culture. "Elena, I think we've been looking at this situation all wrong," Amanda said. "The Zephyrians aren't evil conquerors. They're more like bullies who have never been punched back." Elena looked up from the alien database. What do you mean? Their entire society is based on the idea that they are naturally superior to other species. They've conquered so many worlds without real resistance that they genuinely believe other species are meant to serve them. The concept of effective resistance is completely foreign to them. This information was crucial for understanding what would happen next. Elena had been wondering why the Zephyrians hadn't sent reinforcements or tried to negotiate. Now she understood that they were probably in shock. Unable to process the fact that a primitive species had defeated them, Elena activated the ship's communication system and contacted Admiral Bennett on Earth. Admiral, I'm sending you the complete Zephyrian database. You need to see this. Their empire is much larger than we thought, but it's also much weaker. Back on Earth, Admiral Bennett reviewed the information with General Hayes and the senior military staff. The scope of the Zephyrian Empire was staggering, but so was the opportunity. If humanity could inspire other species to revolt, the entire galactic power structure could be overthrown. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore, Bennett told his staff. We're potentially fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy. General Hayes agreed, but we need to be smart about this. We can't fight the entire Zephyrian Empire alone. We need allies. The answer came sooner than they expected. While Elena was exploring the captured flagship's communication systems, she received an encrypted message from an unknown source. The message was in broken English, clearly translated from another language. Greetings, warriors of Earth, we are the Andromedan Liberation Front. We have heard of your victory against the Zephyrian fleet. For 50 years, our people have been slaves to the Empire. We wish to learn your methods of war. Can you teach us to fight? Elena immediately forwarded the message to Earth. Within hours, Admiral Bennett authorized her to respond. Humanities. First galactic allies were about to be recruited, the Andromedans. It turned out were a proud warrior species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians half a century ago. Unlike other species, they had never fully accepted their defeat. Small groups of Andromedan fighters had been conducting guerrilla warfare for decades, but they lacked the technology and tactics to seriously threaten their oppressors. Elena arranged a secret meeting with Andromedan representatives at a neutral location in space. Commander Jake Morrison joined her for the mission, bringing along several human military advisors and examples of Earth's weapons technology. The Andromedan ship was impressive, clearly built for war despite being 50 years old. When Elena and Jake boarded the alien vessel, they were greeted by Commander Thrakenor, a tall being with metallic skin and fierce yellow eyes. So you are the humans who defeated the Zephyrian fleet, Thrakenor said in accented English. We did not believe the reports at first. No species has ever successfully resisted the Empire, Jake smiled. We didn't just resist them, we kicked them out of our solar system. Over the next several hours, the humans and Andromedans exchanged information about their respective capabilities and experiences. The Andromedans were natural warriors, but they had been using conventional tactics against an enemy with superior technology. The humans had developed unconventional methods that turned Zephyrian advantages into weaknesses. Elena demonstrated some of the captured Zephyrian technology, showing how the neural disruption array could cripple their collective consciousness network. Jake explained human hit-and-run tactics and how to use environmental factors to level the playing field against technologically superior enemies. Commander Thrakenor was impressed. Your methods are unlike anything we have seen. You fight like ... predators hunting prey? That's exactly right, Jake replied. The Zephyrians have been acting like the top predator in the galaxy for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to be hunted. The meeting ended with an agreement. The Andromedans would share intelligence about Zephyrian military installations and weak points throughout the Empire. In return, the humans would provide weapons technology and tactical training to Andromedan resistance fighters. Within weeks, the effects of this alliance became apparent. Andromedan cells throughout the Empire began using human-designed weapons and tactics against their oppressors. Zephyrian supply lines were disrupted, communication networks were attacked, and garrison forces found themselves under constant harassment. More importantly, news of the alliance spread to other enslaved species. The humans received messages from dozens of different alien races, all asking for help in overthrowing their Zephyrian masters. The Galactic Rebellion was beginning. Commander Elena Martinez found herself at the center of this growing movement. Using the captured flagship as a mobile command center, she coordinated with resistance groups across multiple star systems. Human military advisors were sent to train alien fighters, while captured Zephyrian technology was reverse-engineered and shared with humanity's new allies. The Zephyrian response was predictable but ineffective. They tried to crush the rebellions using their traditional methods, overwhelming force and threats of destruction. But the rebel groups had learned human tactics, appearing and disappearing like ghosts, striking at critical targets and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. Dr. Kevin Walsh worked with alien scientists to develop new hybrid technologies. Combining human innovation with alien knowledge, they created weapons and systems that were far more advanced than anything either species could have built alone. The technological revolution was happening at an incredible pace. One of the most important developments came from an unexpected source. The captured Zephyrian prisoners, treated humanely by their captors, began to question their own beliefs about species superiority. Some of them actually volunteered to help the rebellion, providing crucial intelligence about their empire's structure and weaknesses. Admiral Bennett realized that humanity had stumbled into something much larger than they had planned. "We set out to defend Earth," he told General Hayes. "Now we're leading a galactic revolution." The war was expanding beyond anything the humans had imagined. But they were no longer fighting alone. Across the galaxy, dozens of species were rising up against their oppressors. Inspired by the example of the small blue planet that had refused to surrender, the Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed unbeatable just months ago, was beginning to crumble. And at the center of this galactic upheaval were the humans, the supposed primitives who had shown the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could fall if enough people were willing to fight for their freedom. 6 months after the first alien transmission, Admiral Charles Bennett stood on the bridge of the U's Liberation, watching the blue-green world of Vaelthoros grow larger on the main screen. The Zephyrian homeworld looked peaceful from orbit, but Bennett knew that appearances could be deceiving. This planet had been the center of an empire that had enslaved hundreds of billions of beings across the galaxy. The fleet surrounding Bennett's flagship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside Andromedan warships, while vessels from dozens of other liberated species filled the space around Vaelthoros. The Galactic Liberation Coalition had grown from a small alliance to a massive force representing over 50 different worlds. Bennett activated his communication system and addressed the combined fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Bennett. Today, we end the Zephyrian Empire once and for all. Remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to free the galaxy and build something better." The siege of Vaelthoros had been planned for weeks. Intelligence gathered from liberated worlds showed that the planet's defenses were designed to stop traditional invasion fleets. The Zephyrians had built massive orbital platforms and energy shields that could destroy any attacking force that used conventional tactics. But the coalition wasn't using conventional tactics. Colonel Ryan Davis led the first wave of attack, commanding a mixed squadron of human stealth fighters and Andromedan assault ships. They phased in and out of normal space, appearing inside the defensive perimeter before the Zephyrian weapons could target them. The planet's defense systems tried to adapt, but they had been programmed to fight against predictable enemies. The coalition forces used every trick that humans had taught their allies: gravity manipulation, neural disruption, electromagnetic interference, and coordinated strikes against critical targets. Captain Elena Martinez, now commanding a small fleet of captured and modified Zephyrian ships, led the second wave. Her vessels looked like part of the defending fleet, allowing them to get close to the orbital platforms before revealing their true allegiance. The surprise attack crippled half of the planet's defenses in the first hour on the surface of Vaelthoros. Supreme Commander Zolthek watched his empire's final battle from the capital city's command center. The Zephyrian military leader was one of the few members of his species who understood what was really happening. The empire wasn't just losing a war, it was facing a complete revolution in galactic thinking. "Sir, the orbital defenses are failing," reported his aide. "The enemy fleet is using tactics we cannot counter." Zolthek nodded grimly. "They learned from our own methods and turned them against us. We became so used to easy victories that we forgot how to fight against a determined enemy." The battle for Velthoros lasted only 3 days. The planet's defenses, mighty as they were, couldn't stop an enemy that refused to fight by the established rules. Human-trained coalition forces used guerrilla tactics, striking at weak points and disappearing. Before defenders could respond, Dr. Amanda Clark was part of the delegation that met with Zolthek when he finally agreed to surrender. The Zephyrian commander was a tall, elegant being with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. Unlike the arrogant High Arbiter who had first threatened Earth, Zolthek seemed genuinely sorry for his empire's actions. "I want you to know," he told Amanda through a translator, "that not all Zephyrians supported the empire's policies. Many of us believed that conquest was wrong, but we had no power to change our government's actions." Amanda studied the alien commander carefully. "What will happen to your people now?" "That depends on you," Zolthek replied. "We are prepared to face whatever judgment you impose." The answer came from President Alex Turner, who had traveled from Earth to witness the Empire's surrender. "We're not here to become conquerors ourselves," he announced to the assembled crowd of coalition representatives. "We're here to build a galaxy where all species can live in freedom." The formal surrender ceremony took place in the Great Hall of the Zephyrian capital. Representatives from every liberated world attended, watching as the empire that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years officially dissolved. Supreme Commander Zolthek signed the documents that ended Zephyrian rule and established the new Galactic Freedom Council, but the real work was just beginning. Dr. Kevin Walsh found himself leading a massive technological exchange program, bringing together scientists from dozens of species to share knowledge and innovations. The combination of human adaptability with alien expertise was creating advances that no single species could have achieved alone. Maya Foster, the engineer who had designed the gravity traps that helped defeat the first Zephyrian fleet, was now working with former enemy scientists to develop new propulsion systems. The irony wasn't lost on her that the people who had once threatened to destroy Earth were now her colleagues and friends. The transformation of galactic society happened faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together. Trade networks that had been controlled by the Zephyrian Empire were rebuilt as free associations between equal partners. Commander Jake Morrison was put in charge of the new Galactic Defense Force, a military organization designed to prevent any single species from again dominating the galaxy. The force was built on human principles, voluntary service, defensive rather than aggressive tactics, and protection of the weak rather than conquest of the strong. One of the most surprising developments was how quickly former Zephyrians adapted to their new freedom. Many of them, like Supreme Commander Zolthek, joined the coalition government and proved to be valuable contributors to galactic society. They brought advanced technology and administrative experience, while learning human concepts of individual rights and democratic government. Dr. Amanda Clark established the Galactic Cultural Exchange Institute, dedicated to helping different species understand and respect each other. She had learned during the war that most conflicts came from misunderstanding rather than genuine evil. The Institute's mission was to prevent future wars through education and communication. 6 months after the liberation of Velthoros, Admiral Bennett received a message that surprised him. It came from outside the galaxy, transmitted by a species that had heard about the war and humanity's role in ending the Zephyrian Empire. "Greetings, people of Earth," the message began. "We represent the Intergalactic Council of Free Worlds. We have been watching your galaxy for many years, waiting for a species to emerge that understood the true meaning of freedom. We would like to invite humanity and its allies to join our larger community. Bennett shared the message with President Turner and the Galactic Freedom Council. The prospect of contact with civilizations from other galaxies was both exciting and daunting. Humanity had gone from being isolated on one planet to becoming leaders in galactic affairs in less than a year. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, now commanding the first human dreadnought Defiance, was given the honor of leading humanity's first mission beyond their home galaxy. As her ship prepared to depart for the coordinates provided by the Intergalactic Council, she reflected on how much had changed since that first alien transmission. The galaxy was no longer ruled by fear and conquest. Hundreds of species were working together to build something better. A civilization based on cooperation rather than domination, exploration rather than exploitation, and freedom rather than slavery. Standing on her ship's bridge, Rodriguez looked back at Earth one last time before activating the new faster-than-light drive that Coalition scientists had developed. The small blue planet looked peaceful and beautiful, no longer threatened by alien conquest. Humanity had started as the supposed Deathworlders that the galaxy feared. Now they were the guardians of galactic freedom, respected throughout the stars not for their ability to destroy, but for their willingness to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The age of human expansion into the greater universe was just beginning, and the reputation of Earth's people as liberators, rather than conquerors, would open doors to wonders that no one could yet imagine.